Senorita appeared. Don Miguel is very happy. They dance and dance till at last it's midnight. Don Miguel, he want to know who was that Senorita Jose dance with. He don't know, but he's got her glass huarache. Now they have to look for girl with 4 and 5/8 foots. Senoritas comes from all over to have the foots measured, but nothing fits. At last, they come to wicked strap mother's door. But she don't want Senorella to win, so she got rid of her. Then her daughters try their luck, but in those they come unglued, and the other ones just wouldn't fit. But wait, what's this? A foot! Ole! It fits the feet. Could this be her? Oi! Caramba! It is her! And so they was married and made Manuelo and wife. Was not that a sad story, amigo?
Sad? It was not sad. It was a happy story. But what happened to the wicked stepmother?
That's the sad part. I marry her.
What did you think of the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 5, Disc 2?
It was good.
All right.
I like the other one better, though.
All right. Yeah, here's my remote. Yeah, it was upside down. No commentary, that's too much. No auto programs, that's too much. No behind the tunes, can't do that. So we'll do this one.
Huh?
Chuck Jones Extremes in Betweens, a live animation process.
A live action director sets up a scene, shoots it, and tries to get the right energy, the right rhythm into the scene, into the performances and such. And then, in the editing room, refines that and may use cutaways of some of the other actors or tighten up some of the spaces between moments of dialogue, and then that's it. Well, the animation director has to do all that beforehand.
In Chuck's cartoons, there's an awareness of the camera that a lot of directors don't have.
Oftentimes in our work, we're so inspired by the camera angles, not
John Lester, director.
in Chuck's work. And what amazes me is all those camera angles weren't found by looking around the set. They were drawn. And so
Triple-on
often, his
Daffy.
camera angles are a major part of the gag.
The impact of the cuts and the choices are not just functional, they're really effective.
Storyboard.
It's like what I think a lot of directors do today. We do storyboards. We do our live action movies in cartoon form.
In the old days, they didn't write a script. They would draw the gags and do the dialogue like a cartoon strip that you would see in the funny paper.
If you imagine a Sunday comic strip with 140 sketches, we stuck up anything at random, just any idea, maybe an expression in it. And then as they had some relationship with one another, they would be brought together.
Ted Pierce was a story
Martha Singal,
and
ink and
he did lots of
paint.
stories for Chuck. And then later, Mike Maltese worked with Chuck, and Chuck had a great rapport with Mike.
I bet if you took the same storyboard with all the same gags in it and even the same audio track and gave it to two directors, Chuck being one and someone else being the other, Chuck's would always be funnier. Because he understood what makes a gag work.
Character layouts.
The public really knows the part that a good director plays in animation. It's not the job of the animator to create the situation and to create the characters and to create the timing. It's the director who does it every step of the way. He does the extreme drawings. He does the points of contact.
An animation director, at least in the classic style of animation directors, would actually draw the key poses, or what are sometimes called extremes, for every shot, every character. Chuck would do that drawing. Maybe not a finished drawing, but he would do a drawing that would capture the attitude, and that's the key word that they all use, of course, attitude, of the character at that moment.
When Chuck directs a cartoon, he does an awful lot of layout pose drawings for the animator.
Hopalong Casality.
In fact, his pose drawings actually come before the background layouts. He'll kind of establish the space the characters are working in and their attitudes, and then they'll kind of work the background layouts around that so he can have the freedom to express through the characters the way that he wants. And he will make a lot of drawings, really indicating one character's thought processes all the way through the entire cartoon. Now, this is really what animators use as a roadmap. It doesn't mean that the scene is pre-animated. It means rather that these are the succinct points that the animators need to hit to get this particular expression across.
Ooh.
But animators, being great animators like Ken Harris or Ben Washam, can take that and it gives them one boost up. That gives them the clear road that they're traveling, and then they turn it into animation magic.
The approach that Chuck Jones,
Glenn Keane, Supervision
storyboard,
Animation,
plan
Disney
everything out with
Feature
his layout,
Animation.
give it to the animators to follow to the T. The timing, everything that he had was there. The table was set. He approaches his films that way. Everything is planned to the nth degree. And there's a real personal stamp on a film when a director approaches it that way. The individual person of that director is seen through nearly every frame.
Chuck would call all us animators and crew in.
Background layouts.
And he knew which animator could do which the best. And I would stand in the background and listen to the whole story. And then Chuck would bring the whole picture into me. And I'd quickly go through and make rough sketches of every single scene in extreme. Very quick red sketches. I knew where all the action was.
Awfully unsporting of me, I know, but what the hey? I gotta have some fun.
The characters are flat designed characters. They're satire, they're fun to look at. So consequently, I thought the background should fit in with that. Be designed element, fun elements. But there's a very fine line between design and rapport with your audience. In other words, you can have a very designed element and lose your audience. So all my design is based on supporting the character in the action that they're being involved in.
Duck Dodgers in the 24 half
Well,
century.
there when I got the storyboard,
Oh!
at the same time.
God bless
And I tell
you.
him to do anything but don't interfere with the
Thank
action.
you. Sorry.
And he understood that.
I looked at the storyboard, then I started to cook a lot of crazy ideas. And like the evaporator and a lot of that stuff.
The idea of going to the airport by dissolving, boom, and he disappeared. And you cut to the airport, boom, and he appeared. I thought that was wonderful, you know. That didn't require anything from the animator, but it required a great deal from the layout man. When Daffy walks into the scene, he put that big eye up there, which put it in the future. Those are things that Maurice added. They were not part of the original story sketches.
And this is what, the essence of what animation design is all about.
Look at those backgrounds. They're fantastic. The backgrounds in the classic Roadrunner cartoons, great. You really want to be there.
That Roadrunner country. This is all essence. The Grand Canyon, the Monument Valley, Painted Desert. These are all colors that have come from those areas. We were out in space, and I flew around and trying to find some designs. I came up with this red runway and the glass and all this and that. This is a matter of flight of imagination, but it seemed to work. You design for the action. And incidentally, the star of the whole show is the animation. The background, the layout man, is a supporter.
Chuck has often said that the difference between a laugh and no laugh can be as little as one frame.
Okay, Paul. I will do good this time. Alley-oop.
The timing of Chuck Jones is remarkable. In this one Three Bears cartoon, they somehow catapult the father bear up into the air, and they look up in the sky, and he doesn't come down. And so they join hands and walk into the house. How long should they walk into the house? How long should it be nighttime before the sun comes up and you hear a rooster crow in the morning?
Oh, boy.
That sense of timing that Chuck brings to his animation is he keeps holding the audience back for as long as possible. Everybody knows what's going to happen, but he doesn't deliver it until like the last minute. I always think of it as like playing cards. You've got your ace there, and you know it's coming, and you just want to hang on to it as long as possible before you put it down for dramatic effect.
Speaking of that, you know, we threaded the rope off the house. What I liked very well for me was when he pushes the big boulder off of there. I wanted the audience to enjoy that half a second, or maybe a little 2 seconds. Them to know that he was pushing off and know what was going to happen to the cat. That's a delicious moment. I timed the action, pared it down where needed. At that point, and only at that point, what I call that metal black, we would go through it and I would be Bugs Bunny all the way through. And then we reverse it and he would be Daffy. So they'd be recording both of our voices.
It's true, Doc. I'm a rabbit, all right. Would you like to shoot me now or wait till you get home? Shoot him now! Shoot him now!
Wow.
Shoot him now! Shoot him now! He doesn't have to shoot you now. I say he does have to shoot me now. And those quick changes that it really was pronoun trouble. And the director had to know the exact intonation of every line they had.
Let us run through that again. Okay.
This is a very calm thing here. Do you want to shoot him now or wait till you get home?
Would you like to shoot me now or wait till you get home? Shoot him now. Shoot him now. You keep out of this. He doesn't have to shoot you now. Ha! That's it. Hold it right there. Pronoun trouble.
To me, the reading of each sentence must be thought out very carefully.
Oh, no, you don't. Not this time. Wait till you get home. All right.
Milt was so good at it that the whole thing would probably take less than an hour. We because we all understood it as it went along. And he was so quick a reader. But he was the most ideal actor I'd ever worked with.
Chuck knew what he wanted. He was precise in his directions. And fortunately, he hired the right actors. I have a warm spot for Witch Hazel. Chuck was the one who really made it famous.
She was sort of an overweight Zsa Zsa Gabor.
She would look in the mirror and say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the ugliest one of all?" You know, and when she was reassured that she was the ugliest, she was so happy.
I'm so deathly afraid of getting pretty as I grow older. Pretty?
And she was a damn good actress, which was really the same thing with Mel.
Animators.
The animator is an actor, but he acts on the direction of the director. He does what the director
Richard
does.
Kent Jones'
And he does
brother.
he draws as the director wants him to draw.
Chuck had wonderful animators. He had Benny Washam, who was a great animator, and Lloyd Vaughn, and Ken Harris. Ken Harris was just great.
All these guys were tremendous animators. Even so, Chuck's personality came through.
The animator would draw the first and maybe the 6th and the 8th drawing. And then the in-betweeners will go in between each drawing.
I warn you, dearie, I'm going to worm all of your ugly secrets out of you. Tell me now, who undoes your hair?
You don't get great animators. When you get them, you want to nurture them, hold them, and help them. Ken Harris had the ability to get action into things. Indeed, we want our characters to be alive. And that's the essence of everything to do with animation, isn't it? I mean, the term itself, to invoke life, I took very seriously. If they weren't alive, how the hell could I care about them? I discovered it isn't a question of drawing. It's a question of the expression that makes any character come to life.
Good job.
Chuck's facial expressions were the best in the business because he was a minimalist.
We're so used to eyes as the one fixture on our body, really, that is always alive. When you have eyes moving, it brings life to the character. The rest of it could be dead. The move of the eye sometimes is one where something's happening and then you suddenly go, what? And that little eye flick, you'll catch it every time because you learn more from eyes moving than you do really from mouth moving.
A lot of people think that classic cartoon animation is broad. Just everything you do is broad. And in actual fact, if you look at a Chuck Jones cartoon, it's not broad, it's rather subtle. The distinction is that if you want a particular facial expression to read in a very sharp way, the transitions themselves will be very, very fast.
Good.
I love Feed the Kitty because it's a great cartoon that's hysterically funny, but also very warm. You know, you actually feel something for this relationship that this big thug of a bulldog has for this teeny little cute kitten.
Now, what are you up to? You look very guilty.
The expressions on his face when he's trying to hide the kitten from his mistress are absolutely priceless.
Was
especially
today
the
a
one where
perfect
he
day,
kinda
Mom?
does a little
Yes.
beat.
Okay.
I did 53 drawings. No, right.
The little kitty falls into a mixing bowl, and the dog thinks that he's been baked into a cookie.
Mark Anthony, you greedy thing.
He watches through the window as the housewife puts what he thinks is the cat in the oven to cook.
Hey, we seen this before, remember? That was in the Spotlight collection along with the Golden collection and on the first volume.
My, what a long face. Well, I know just the thing for that. Here. Well, come on, take it.
I thought it was a laugh, but people in the audience cry a little. I never planned that.
I mean, I've seen people like choke while watching this cartoon, and yet it managed to be poignant and funny and very dark, all at the same time.
The blue music. That's the Nutcracker.
Yep. I will now play a passage.
The Ducksters.
And you must name the opera. But I'm weary. Listen carefully. And there you have it now. What's the opera?
Michael, look at this.
Audience?
What is that?
Wait,
My
what?
story's probably not unique in that I came to classical music through the work of Chuck Jones.
Oh, it's an error.
The main reason for using that kind
I
of
don't know
music
how to
is
start
it's
it
the best
over.
music.
Hang on.
And it's the most
Here we go.
appropriate even for an animated cartoon.
Watch.
That's from Jenna and Delina.
The William Tell Overture may be a cornball to us now.
You see how you throw
But
the
it
ball
works.
in the bathtub and it
works.
explodes into
He was
a
using
rainbow?
this great work
Yeah.
of classical music
Where'd it
to
come
express these
from?
ideas with so much humor.
The man who did most
Isn't that
of the music
cool?
for those cartoons
Yes.
was a man called Carl Stalling.
I wish I
He's not a
have
household
one.
word, but boy, was he good.
You'd never know that he had a wonderful sense of humor. He looked like a streetcar conductor, and I couldn't figure out where he got that. Because he could do things with music that were very, very funny.
Leopold.
Long-haired hair.
One of my favorite moments is when Bugs Bunny dons the wig as Leopold Stokowski and conducts the tenor through his aria.
Ooh.
Speaking of poses and getting a lot out of a very little, the poses and gestures that Bugs goes through to control and manipulate the performance is brilliant.
Even the insane conducting gestures that he has him make are, of course, they're funny, but they're not that far off. You know, that's what's so vicious and so wonderfully funny.
I had to learn piano score to this extent that I could see if the notes went up, they would get higher, if they came down, and I discovered how you broke up some of the stuff. What came to my attention was one time I noticed that a quarter note below the staff had that little line through it. And it looked like a little man with a derby hat on. The whole thing came from that one thought.
The Blue Danube piece that Chuck created, where you have a set of notes that set up themselves and become the Blue Danube except for one note. You know, taking G clefs and holding them and doing all this stuff.
You notice we didn't put anything in there that didn't belong in there. That's the fun of it. If you're dealing in a rock of music, notes, you have to be honest with yourself and with them. And the more you narrow it, the better it gets. Everything in there was honest, too. Every device that we used in there, you'd find honest half of music. But if I'd known music, I probably would have leaned on things that I knew and how to employ it. Fortunately, I didn't know how to employ it, so the way I employed it gave it a kind of a novelty to the thing, I think, that might not have occurred otherwise. But in The Rabbit of Seville, the music happened to work, but it wasn't about the music, it was about Elmer's trying to kill a rabbit. The marriage of the music itself and the drawing then came together, both of us unexplored. The music didn't know it was going to be an animated cartoon, and I didn't know anything about music.
Welcome to my shop. Let me cut your mop.
Remember Rabbit of Seville episode? We seen this before you were gone to Arizona, remember?
Rossini, came complete with lyrics that went, welcome to my shop, let me cut your mop, daintily, daintily.
I got to know that piece of music in that opera because of that cartoon. I don't know how many people my generation that probably happened to.
Rabbit of Seville is marvelous, mainly for me because of its precision. I think people don't realize that comedy has to be really, really precise in order to work. And when you are conceiving and timing something to music so well, that's the difference between making people laugh and making people enjoy it and not.
It's much funnier to me to see people doing funny things in front of great music than it is to have a caricature of music. The music was written this way and you're trying to do something with it. You can't change the timing of it. What interested you in it was the way it was written, and the hesitates and everything are in there. Once you start and once you've sacrificed yourself on that particular cross, you have to accept the idea that that's what you're working with.
What the?
The music
Oh,
is
it's a
there.
Helen
Now you bring in
Garnier.
another factor, drawing.
That's weird.
Simple drawing.
And the scene where Bugs has a hair tonic and puts on Elmer's head and the flowers grow out. And it's done to the music so impeccably.
Give me a second.
In the chase. And then it leads
Oh,
up
yeah,
to, of
the
course, the
Florence.
battle of the bigger and bigger weapons. It's just the escalation, done to the music. It just makes that so hilarious and so funny.
Garden and
Of course, it turned generations of people off opera. Probably no more so than the Marx Brothers did. I think it was a very easy straight line because opera has great beauty, and although it was mostly Wagner, it was mostly the German operas they go after.
Opera singers don't have a posse. You never see like Wagner.
Hey, Mommy.
After, like, well, yo, Wagner rules.
good
Put out
news
that
to
Riverdale
say
Wagner
this
right now.
before
Ring
we
cycle.
go on the way to
Belong
Myrtle
to the
Beach
beat.
next year.
I want to thank Wagner for putting it out.
Mommy.
Michael, I'm trying to watch this, honey.
Mark Twain said
What's
Wagner's music
opera,
was
Doc?
better than the sounding, and he said he liked Parsifal except for the singing. I've never met anybody who could sit through the entire Ring of the Nibelung and come out sane, or even alive for that matter.
I mean, come on, the white horse coming down and sitting down, all that fat bulges out. I mean, that is just hugely funny. But it's like everything looks so beautiful.
You're so far away.
Yes, I know it. I can't help it.
Up one hill, I've been
is how he incorporated the exquisite design into these cartoons, into the storytelling, into the timing, into the humor. You know, I mean, that's, I think, one of the amazing things about what's opera doc.
The other directors tended to play it safe. They had one product and they would go with it. They do it over and over and over again. And but now Chuck, he was always straining to do something new and different.
Ouch.
In other words, he gave me tremendous leeway. We had a previous designer that wanted to have the proscenium art right on stage all the time. I said, "The hell with that, you know. I wanted to have super grand opera." We threw away the arch completely and immediately started writing on the grand scale. The long shot, the big shadow and all that. Chuck worked it back into the picture.
Be very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits.
And it was kind of back and forth all the way through that. Sometimes he'd suggest bits of action, and sometimes I could suggest a setup for something, you see. I pre-designed color sketches, you know, take them in. I say, "Chuck, maybe the picture can go this way."
What have I done?
He said, "What are you bothering me for? I'm busy doing my animation layouts. You go do the backgrounds."
I believe that on the average Warner Bros. Cartoon, there's probably 60-something shots in the cartoon. That one was 110 or something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was so much bigger than anything that had been done before. Yet he made it work so well. And the design in that is so exquisite. It really took the Warner Brothers cartoon up to a whole nother level.
Animation, I suppose, as an art form, is very much like ballet. Chuck's work particularly made use of that, choreographing each movement and each expression to a pre-recorded soundtrack, gave it all just a sort of a perfect symmetry.
The music was right, but it's what they did in front of it that made it funny, we hoped. What made the thing was Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny addressing Wagner head on. So we took the 14 hours of the Nibelung and squashed it down to 6 minutes.
I'll kill the rabbit. Away, strong.
Maurice said he probably told you the problems he had with the colors. They didn't like the idea of Elmer being lavender and purple and different colors because he'd never been done that way. Fortunately, all of our battles were never gigantic. They were always minuscule, but they were absolutely defined by the need for the picture.
What have I done?
I'm seeing that.
I've killed the rabbit.
When Elmer says, "I killed a rabbit," the audience goes quiet. They're right with you. Poor little rabbit killed a rabbit. From all this exciting color, then this somberness.
Well, what did you expect in an opera? A happy ending?
When the glory days of Bugs Bunny were over for him, it didn't stop him. I mean, he took a lot of chances and he did a lot of experimenting. Some of it worked, like The Grinch and The Dot and the Line, which is a wonderful cartoon, when he went to MGM. And other things didn't work. For instance, he took over Tom and Jerry.
Chuck tried to give them a slightly different look, a slightly different take. I think that people wanted to see Tom and Jerry exactly as they seen it. They didn't want any kind of changes, and so to the extent Chuck made changes, it may have bothered people.
If you looked at all of Chuck Jones's cartoons in chronological order, he really was like almost predicting design styles.
It's interesting when you're talking about a film like High Note or Dot in the Line, because those, I think, really represent departures for Chuck, although he was trying to do that, I think, through his career, you know, trying to find those unique stories to tell.
The little book, if you've ever seen it, is very clever. And so we took that book and expanded it. To translate from a book form, boy, you have to do a lot of thinking and a lot of planning and maneuvering around to make it work. It was very successful. You know, it got the Academy Award.
Once upon a time, there was a sensible, straight line who was hopelessly in love with a dot.
I don't want something that's realistic. I want something that's believable. And the dot and the line, for instance, you can make a believable character out of something that's just a straight line.
The frivolous Dot wasn't a bit interested, for she only had eyes for a wild and unkempt squiggle who never seemed to have anything on his mind at all.
He wanted to go for something that was different. It was so different than anything he'd done at Warner Brothers. It was avant-garde for its day, for God's sake.
He saw the potential in a totally abstract film to do something like that, and he managed, and this was his genius, to make a dot, a line, and a squiggle absolutely human, so you cared about them.
His worried friends noticed how terribly thin and drawn he was and did their best to cheer him up. She's not good enough for you. She lacks depth. They all look alike anyway. Why don't you find a nice straight line and settle down? But he hardly heard a word they said. For anyway he looked at her, she was perfect.
It's such a wonderful cartoon for its minimalism, and it's so exquisite in its simplicity of design.
When he had all but given up, he discovered at last that with great concentration and self-control, he was able to change direction and bend wherever he chose. So he did, and made an angle. And then again, and made another, and then 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 another.
It's character animation at its purest form, because you have a straight line, you have a dot, and the straight line is stiff and boring. And then Squiggle comes in, and he's just so cool and all like that, and the dot kind of gets excited about it. But it's not until, the line realizes all the amazing things that it can do. And it becomes a whole nother character. It comes out of his shell.
Now he was dazzling. Clever. Mysterious.
Translating a book into a screenplay is something that very few authors even understand.
I knew the book. I had read it to my children, and the Grinch was not a surprise to me because I loved the material. But it was a surprise to me that Chuck could do it so well. It didn't look. It was like it was that adaptable to the screen.
You're a mean one.
That's from Dr. Seuss.
Yep.
The Grinch is still
Chuck Jones and Ted Gissel.
High watermark of a character that you love to hate.
Staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown.
When he looks down at Whoville and you see the smile come on his face, and it's all in anticipation of what he's going to do, and you can just crawl into his head, and it's an intellectual anticipation. It's not just in the animation too. You really savor those moments.
The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea.
Chuck is the master of a freeze frame, a still, where everything stops and you can just hear the wheels turning inside the character's head.
And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas Sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming.
Well, Chuck was great on choosing voices. Look at Karloff in The Grinch. I mean, that was an extraordinary choice that no one had thought of, and really was a unique concept of Chuck's.
And Max has got to be one of the great canine characters in history.
There had to be somebody in there that could observe what was happening and reflect the absurdity of the whole matter. Dr. Seuss, that is Ted Geisel, said that he said the Grinch looked a lot more like me than it did like his Grinch. In a way, it was true, too.
We've relegated TV animation to the second-class cousin of the big, expensive features. It doesn't have to be that way. It's all about what is in the creator's mind.
I'd say that the great frustration and in a way the challenge for us in trying to make a live action version is that we can't compete, so we just sort of choose not to.
You usually get less money as something gets older, and MGM got more money as this thing got older. So then you know you have a classic.
I think the popularity of The Grinch is a testament enough to the fact that, even in his later years, he was still doing material that people were going to be looking at, long after he was gone.
It's my great pleasure to present this very special achievement award to an artist who's a true visionary. Ladies and gentlemen, put him together for the hardest drawn man in show business, Chuck Jones.
What can I say in the face of such humiliating evidence? I stand guilty before the world of directing over 300 cartoons in the last 50 or 60 years. Hopefully, this means you've forgiven me.
The greatest thing for me was backstage at the Academy Awards after he got his Lifetime Achievement. He was backstage talking to all these journalists, and he was talking about animation and comparing it to classic Greek drama. And he said, the tragic hero. And then but with the coyote, he is basically the tragic hero, raging against the gods, but somehow still finding another anvil.
I was privileged to be with Chuck that night. It was his fourth Oscar. He's received 3 others for individual cartoons. This was his fourth, and it was really for a career. And I can think of little more deserving than that Oscar.
That Oscar was sort of, I think, a great way of everybody saying, thanks for giving me more imagination than I would have had if it weren't for you.
An important role that Chuck is playing today is as an elder statesman for animation.
So many of
The studio
animation
gallery.
sets have been destroyed, and so Chuck's
Linda Jones Clough, daughter.
He felt that he could recreate the moments that were perhaps most important to him or most important to others, and that we could have those moments back.
Linda started it, really, all the way.
He has said many, many times how separated from his audience he always was when he was making the films, and that there was never an opportunity for him to interact personally with them. Now he has an opportunity to shake their hand and hear their comments and actually be a part of their lives, and it just means the world to him to be able to do that. Jeff retired for about 2.5 minutes in 1980. Of course, he continued to speak and teach and write. He realized that it would be fun to do the drawing of limited editions. We've always enjoyed working together, so it was a fortuitous opportunity for both of us to follow our hearts, I guess.
He has given us his versions of some of the most famous cartoon characters in history, but his versions are the definitive ones.
One Froggy Evening.
Cartoons are everybody's favorite.
The Warner Brothers cartoon.
Oh, that's one of my favorites.
What do you mean?
One Froggy Evening.
To see.
I think there's no cartoon that holds a candle to that, ever. Nothing's ever come close.
Great.
That's the citizen of the animated short.
tell me I'm your own.
Yep.
Of course, that whole picture of the devil thing is the most difficult picture I ever did direct.
Hello, my honey. Hello, my baby. Hello, my baby.
Yes.
You know, it's the Jolson frog.
Michigan Jane Frog could only dance, could only sing when the man only could sing. But he could not in front of anybody else. But I love that kind of challenge. I always wondered what would happen if you got a child prodigy that wouldn't prodige. That's exactly what he is. And so the frog naturally says, "Grow up."
Everybody do the Michigan ride. Everybody likes the Michigan ride. Every name and Jane and Ruth. Stomp, rock, pump the Michigan. Jump, clomp, pump the Michigan ride. That loving ride.
You know what's going on, really. You know that this is show business at its essence. I found a talent. And it's a manager going, oh, come on, my little buddy. Sure, we'll pay you.
Everybody wants to be rich, I'll say that. I mean, I will assert that. Except me. All I ever wanted to do was have enough money to live comfortably and to do what I enjoy doing. It turned out that's what my life was pretty much about.
This new 40-story building.
I think one of the reasons why Chuck Jones cartoons are timeless is because the jokes are classic, they still work, and the sheer laughter at human absurdity is always there.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
Just created a generation of imagination in young people all across the world.
He's remained relevant and contemporary and funny. All these years, he still connects.
For me, Chuck Jones is a given in our culture. He's just part of the atmosphere. He's part of the environment. You wake up in the morning and you know Bugs Bunny is out there doing something.
Yes. It's almost over anyway. I'll be right down soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue with this picture. And, confidentially...
Did you enjoy it, Mommy?
Exactly, break.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. That's all, folks. Merry Melodies, a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Return, my love. A longing burns deep inside me.
Return, my love. I want you always beside me.
Love like ours must be
made for you and for me.
it's not unusual to say, you know, let's go. This isn't a movie moment. This is a cartoon moment. Let's really go with that. And generally, what you're talking about is, you know, that Tex Avery, that Chuck Jones school of filmmaking, with kind of, you know, an energy, a fast exit, something falling out of frame, or something popping into frame. Startling, funny, satirical kinds of ideas. Look to the camera, say a line, and boom, you're out.
And don't think it hasn't been a little slice of heaven, because it hasn't.
So when they say cartoon in comedy, I think very often what they really mean is that sort of Warner Brothers school.
You don't have to walk out of a scene. You zip out, like so.
It's a part of animation.
And zip back in again. After which you vibrate to a stop, like so.
The thing that I feel that is imperative in any action is the
Chuck
anticipation.
Jones.
Anticipation is really telling the audience what is about to happen. If I'm going to go pick up this cup, you see my hand very clearly, and I show it to you and say, see this hand? This hand is going to grab something, and now we're going to grab it, pick it up. A new animator will just go grab it, and the audience missed that whole thing.
An anticipation drawing is when a character prepares to do a movement. Usually it's a small movement, you know, where a character will go in the opposite direction to the direction that he is going to go in. That's really what an anticipation drawing is for. In some cases, it can be exaggerated, you know, so if Bugs Bunny is going to zip out of a scene, you can see a big anticipation before the zip.
Ready? It's surprising how hard these cartoon trees are.
And that's just the movement. But just before you pull it, you let go of the bow and arrow, you pull it back a little bit to free your fingers. But into that comes another thing that is important, that I would say that was discovered more at Disney's than any place else, and that was the difference between primary and secondary action.
Primary action is the main movement of a character. Secondary action are the extra movements that give the character flavor and nuance.
When you stop, if you're wearing a cape or a loose clothing, why, you will come to a stop, but your clothing will continue to go on.
This looks like a job for the Masked Avenger!
And that secondary action has no prime reason for being. You know what electricity does, but you don't know what it is. Certainly it's true of wind, because you can only tell them by what happens to something else. So that's really a secondary action. When a bull disappears, it's hard to make a huge animal like that disappear without leaving something. Even though they don't wear horseshoes because they have split feet, they just leave some of them whirling around where he'd been, the marks of his feet.
There, that's better. A rabbit? Yeah.
I did that also with the witch. When the witch would zip out, why, she would leave bobby pins. And I love that. Because that was a secondary action, you see. It was only provoked by her going out and leaving that whirl. And so good action, funny action, nearly always can be rational. I mean, if you have a guy in the foreground, and it took me a while to understand this, he didn't even have to animate that thing. If he's in the foreground and then he disappears, but there's a trail of dust across the desert, you don't need any animation. You put a little sound effect in there to help, and you've got it.
Overlapping action is all about speed. That there's a momentum of something that is moving in one direction, and if you change direction, everything doesn't just change direction at the same time. There's this whole process where if the coyote is racing after the roadrunner and he's going to change direction, his head might start looking first and his feet continue out this way and then
essentially the character becomes a secondary action. The thing that makes it funny is he lands back on the pillow and he doesn't know that anything's happened. He comes up looking around like, what is this?
In the Chuck Jones tradition, that happens
Roger
all
Ebert.
the time. People are constantly being flattened and then they pop up into 3 dimensions again. They're inflated. They get pumped up. They get filled with water and gas and helium. They get slammed into walls. And they have an infinite plasticity, which is kind of his trademark, I think.
That's where Tex Avery kind of moved in on me. Where I felt that carrying absurdity up to a point and then adding to it at that point. And after all, the number of muscles were available, so I went as far as muscles could go and then kept adding. I mean, what nature couldn't supply, I supplied.
When you see a Chuck Jones character in the beginning of a film, you know that that person or that animal is not going to stay in that shape for 6 minutes.
Believe me, nobody falls altogether.
The idea that the coyote would fall out of frame and his body would fall and his neck would stretch was just sort of this an evolutionary idea.
You exaggerated what is natural, But, even when Chaplin and some of those guys would fall, their hat would come off. I mean, they'd fall out from under their hat, and then the hat would fall. It was a perfectly natural thing to have the different parts of the body, but in order to do that, we have to leave something to make the neck long enough so that it's visible. I keep his head there because his head has to express the opinion. The rest of it is a series of events. It's like if you take a string and put, with balls on it and hold up the string, they will fall, but they won't all fall at once. They'll fall as they're goosed by the other one. And they're quite a ways apart as they fall through the air. We're just accenting what is natural. When we did Rikki Tikki Tavi, I knew that I wanted a mongoose to move like a mongoose with incredible speed. Think of Rikki Tikki Tavi as a railroad train. What I do is I just hold the tail end like a caboose of the train. It doesn't move until the impact of the movement comes back to it.
when you talk to Chuck, he's always encouraging you to go to the source, to study real life, to study art, and apply that to your animation. It's not just drawing funny faces. I love the integrity that he brings to this medium.
When the first cobra spread his hood to keep the sun off.
Marion, my wife, was doing research for me on mongooses and cobras. She found a film of a cobra. It's shot right at the camera. You realize there's a point beyond which you cannot editorialize. You can't make it more dramatic.
I haven't, for myself, thought about what the distinction is in terms of why a character has to walk on 2 legs or why 4 legs. I suppose it's just whatever the moment requires.
He was a wonderful little character. And of course, everybody sometimes has seen it, though. Who isn't nervous? He is the epitome of nervous. And that's the way he is. He explodes all over the place. And that whole idea of the little dog coming and barking and tapping.
Yeah, I'm doing one more special feature on this one.
All right, I'm gonna bring your dinner up.
It's all right. I'm aware of that.
I'm gonna bring it up because it's ready.
Yeah, can you go get the Finding Nemo table?
I was gonna sit you here with the snack tray.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay. All right, I'll go sit somewhere else.
Do you remember how that picture ended?
Sorry about that. I'll take a seat. This is better.
And Chuck actually did a good number of cartoons that were just one-offs that
Steve
never really reappeared.
Falsabi.
Don't know that, but he did one called Much to Do About Nutting. About a squirrel.
Much to do about nutting.
It was a real squirrel, not an anthropomorphized squirrel, and no dialogue. That was something I was simply determined to do. It's not easy for a squirrel to get across the street. But I also discovered this, they don't move evenly. So I decided I would try to make it not just look like a squirrel, but act like a squirrel. And when the squirrel goes up a tree and it wants to look around, it turns quickly and looks around, then appears up here and looks around. These things sound a little obscure, but the more you know about animal behavior and animal characteristics, the easier it is to understand. It's much easier to humanize animals than it is to humanize humans. So that's why I stuck with animals.
Michael?
There's
Don't
nothing
make
to
this
it.
habit,
It's a
okay?
circus for dogs. All you
I
gotta
got-
do is give them the big
This is a one-time deal.
Okay.
The worst you can say about a dog is he's a provisional dog. Now, I don't know if dogs can have that kind of emotion, but they sure look like they do. And Charlie, of course, he was just an epitome of the kind of dog, knowing he was a dog, used every effort to exist as a dog.
Big soulful eyes routine. Gets up every time. Well, nearly every time.
At the end, he tries to, Porky becomes so insane with this guy being there that Porky goes out and hits the big soulful eyes routine. And then the car comes up and picks him up, and then you realize it's the city pound.
I always thought that the extreme facial expressions were not as interesting
Lorraine
and not as
Michaels.
effective in getting laughs as when they sort of resembled humans. In the sense of when they played more deadpan, it tended to be a bit. I don't know that it's a big laugh out loud laugh, but they were much more endearing because of that.
Particularly in the later films, Chuck became very fond of using the smallest possible gestures, facial gestures, to get laughs. Bugs Bunny wriggling his eyebrow could be a big laugh. That's not a subtle laugh, a big
Michael,
laugh.
I'm gonna put your
Daffy,
drink in here so I don't spill it.
looking
Okay.
at the camera and just doing a kind of a camera look. That's the kind of thing that goes back to Oliver Hardy's camera reactions, let's say.
Isn't she lovely?
Those small moments and those small gestures he found could get as big a reaction as any gigantic slapstick action set piece.
Okay, that's it. All right. Back to the main menu.